guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my mid-month wrap-up for July. I feel so weird sitting down filming because it's been over a week since I filmed something. You wouldn't know it based on my channel because I pre-recorded a ton of videos, so there was never like a gap in content. But this past week I did go to St. Lucia with my family, and it was so amazing to be able to go on vacation. It was fantastic. It was so nice to be able to actually have a vacation, spend some time with my parents and my sister, and we had a lot of fun, and I read a lot of great books. And so I have 15 books to share with you that I've read in the first 15 days. I think that's roughly around where it is. I wasn't keeping track of everything I was reading while I was on vacation. I just updated everything on my Goodreads when I came back, so I think it's 15. I don't know. I literally read all indie published romances while I was on vacation and only picked up Neon Gods on the plane ride home, but I read that yesterday, which was the 18th, so that does not count for this video, so we have to wait until my final wrap up of July to see what I thought of Neon Gods. But I have a lot to share with you. I do want to point out the historical romance readathon did happen at the beginning of the month, so I do have an entire reading vlog for that, which I'll link down below, so I won't spend too much time on the books that I read for that. And I feel like I read these forever ago that I don't remember too much about these historicals, because I'm like, was that even this month? How was that like 2.5 weeks ago? I feel like I read these like months ago, but I'm gonna go ahead and get into the books that I read. The first book I read was Her Wicked Marquess by Stacey Reed. This one, our heroine needs a husband because her parents are trying to set her up with an awful man, and so she hears this rumor going around that this Marquess, this playboy, this rake, was found climbing out of someone's window, and so she like blabs to the gossips of the ton, and she's like, it was me. And she's actually been spending time with him. They becoming friends and really liking each other. So this one was fantastic. He does kind of have a revenge plot for something that was happening. This did take me days to read. Like, I was flying through audiobooks this week, and this one took me like 4 or 5 days to actually read physically. So I did end up giving this 4.5 stars because the beginning was really slow for me, but I really loved how things came together at the end. I really loved their romance and how it developed. He would actually sneak into her room at some points, which I thought was really fun, and I just ended up really adoring this. I love My Darling Duke, I think, better than this one, but you can't go wrong with Stacey Reed's historicals. Then I did read Always and Forever by Beverly Jenkins. This one, our heroine is taking a group of mail order brides to where her cousin lives, and she needs to find like a wagon master, someone to take them on a wagon for like over a month to this town where all these women are gonna get married, and she falls in love with the wagon master. It's hilarious because they really butt heads. She wants things her way, and he's like, no, I know what I'm doing, you need to listen to me and do as I say, and it's a lot of fun. And they have different priorities when they arrive in this place, because she's gonna go back to Chicago and he wants to move on to Texas, so they can't really be together, and that really puts a strain on their relationship. I love this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Miss Lily. I picked up my dogs today after not seeing them for a week, and they're so tired, but I want to give them all the love that I can, so I feel bad that I'm filming. But Lily just came upstairs to get some water, so I was hoping she would come in and say hi, but she's not. But this one I think was so unique. I've never read this kind of premise before. She's not a mail order bride, but she's taking women to be mail order brides, and like, it's so funny because she has their like illustrations, whatever you call them, like their pictures from back then, and she like hands them out to the women, and she's like, pick your husband, like, we're gonna go get married. And I thought it was really funny, so I enjoy this one. Then I read Loved by a Warrior, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is Donna Fletcher. I listened to the audiobook. I really enjoyed it more than the first book, but I didn't absolutely love it because these are more like slow, tame historicals, but it was still a lot of fun. Our hero is Scottish, and he is part of this group of men who are kind of brothers, and they like, not all of them are biological, but one of them is the true king of Scotland, and so they are trying to fight against the current king that is ruling over Scotland, and so they are always like in trouble and like running from bad people. And our heroine is actually a death bride, I think is what they call her. I love curses in historicals, so I really love this one. Anybody she marries dies, or anybody she loves dies. So she's already been through 3 guys, I believe, who have all died because of her, they think. And so this new guy finds her, and she needs help, and so he ends up helping her come to find somewhere to live. And he's like, you can come to my keep, my clan, like, you can find a home there, it's fine. And they fall in love in the process, and she's like, you can't love me because you're gonna die. And it was really fun. Like I said, they're a lot more tame and slow, but I did enjoy this. There were some slow parts, but I think it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to continue on in the series. Then I read The Duke in My Bed by Amelia Gray. Listen, this one on audiobook because Lisa from Remarkably Lisa told me that I would love it, and I loved it. So our heroine is in charge of her 4 sisters. I think there's 5 of them, or I don't remember. if there were 4 or 5 of them. But her brother tragically passes away in like a drunken game. Like they were racing their carriages and he dies, and the Duke was there with him racing him, and so her brother had asked him to take care of his sisters by marrying his oldest sister, and the Duke was like, I don't want to do that, but like is pressured to say yes because this man's literally dying in front of him, and so he says yes. And it's been years now, and our heroine has trying to just take care of her sisters. They're in society now, and she's trying to have, I think, her younger sister come out in society, and she's putting her before her. So she's like, I don't need like a season, I don't need a husband, but I want you to like have a good season. And so the Duke is pretty much responsible for them, and so he feels obligated to like marry her, and she's like, I don't want to marry you. And her relationship with her sisters is just fantastic. I really loved how he started to really like the sisters as well and care about them, even though he hated them to begin with. He's like, these women are nuts, like what is happening? And then he's trying to help her get a good match for her younger sister who's just coming out into her season, and it's a lot of fun. I really like this. There's a dog in here too. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Such a fun historical. Then I did read Olivia and the Masked Duke by Grace Calloway. This was our group pick, and it was so much fun. Olivia is in love with our Duke, and she's been in love with him for a long time. They've known each other for a long time. He rescued her when she was like drowning in a lake, and so she's always had this kind of hero complex with him, but he was married once and did not have a good relationship with his wife. They really hurt each other and played with each other's emotions, and so he has a really hard time trusting people. And so Olivia is now like 18 or 19, I don't remember how old she is, and she's like, I'm gonna make a move on him, and she does, and he's like, this can't happen, because he feels like obligated to protect her and like he's not good enough, but he does see her in a new light. But she wants to be a spy, and she's kind of adopted into these Charlie's Angel spies, and so when she wants to be in a relationship with him, he's like, you can't keep any secrets from me, but she does because she wants to be the spy and she can't tell anybody about it, and it's a whole big thing. There's so much going on in here, but I thought it was so much fun. Definitely a lot spicier than I thought it would be too. I really enjoyed this one. The age gap didn't really bother me because he was like in his 30s and she, I think, or his late 20s and she was 18, but like this is historical, so like that was pretty normal. Like I think her parents had the same age gap, and so I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Such a fun group read. Such fun with the spy thing and trying to figure out this whole secret behind this woman's husband, and I enjoyed it. Okay, so those were all the historicals that I read for the Historical Romance Readathon for like the second half, because it did start at the end of June. But I also read Fake by Tate James. This is book 3 in the Madison Kate series. I gave this one 3 stars, I think, because it was boring. This one, not a lot happened, and it was only to develop her relationship with Archer, and she pretty much has a really good relationship with the other 3 guys. This is reverse harem, and Archer's always the one that's always been really hesitant to be with her, and I feel like we only had this book to develop that relationship, and that was the only point. We still don't know anything. I'm just like, why is this being dragged out into 4 books? We really didn't need this book at all, because she still has a stalker. We still don't know who it is. She like blindly trusts people that are obviously fishy, and it's just like, obviously this person has issues and you don't see it and you're not telling the guys about it. And so I'm like, how are these guys who are supposed to be like super in charge of town, they still don't know who your stalker is, who's like leaving gifts on your secured house where you have like a bazillion cameras with security guards? Like, come on. So I'm a little annoyed, but we'll see how the last book of the series goes, which I haven't read yet. I will though. Then I did read Creatures of the Night by Grace Collins. I was sent this from Wattpad Books. I did do a sponsored video book haul with them, and I did read the book because if I'm ever paid to talk about a book, I want to make sure I read it so I can give you guys an honest review. I was just paid to show it in a book haul and not to read it, not to review it. So these are my honest opinions. I gave this 3.5 stars, but I rounded up to 4. The reason why I got 3.5 is because this is a paranormal romance. Our heroine is raised in this group of people who have always seen these shifters as these monsters that they need to kill, and so something happens and everything she's known is just completely thrown out the window, and she doesn't know who to trust, and she sees who these like villains are, and are they really the bad guys? She doesn't know. Are her friends who she can trust? And she starts falling for one of the shifters. And the reason I'm giving it 3.5 is because the romance, I needed so much more from that, especially when I had the last 20%. I wanted more development there, and there wasn't any, because this is the first book in a series. It doesn't say that on Goodreads. It doesn't say that really anywhere about this book, but it ends on a cliffhanger. So there needs to be a second book in this series, and I wanted so much more from the romance. It is very slow burn, but I feel like as the first book of a series, we should have had a little bit more payoff to make us want to go to the next one. But I really enjoyed how unique this kind of story was. She definitely grows much more as a person because she's so passive and just has been living her life with these people because her parents were murdered when she was young, so she never knew her parents, and now she's finally like having to do things for herself, figure things out, and protect herself. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I just wanted more from that romance, so it couldn't get a full 4 stars, but I did round it up to 4 stars on Goodreads. Then I listened to the audiobook of How to Catch a Princess by Alyssa Cole, and I think this has shown me that I kind of am done with Alyssa Cole's books because I really didn't like the first book in this series. It was just so slow, and it focused so much on the politics of the kingdom and not at all on the romance and the development, and I feel like it wasn't really that much of a romance for me. And so this one I was so excited for because we have kind of an Anastasia twist. So we have this woman who is trying to track down this missing royal, and the royal that's missing who doesn't really even know she is a royal. And so the woman who is the royal, she is someone that's hard to like because she pleases people so much that she got fired from her job and still helps the person who was promoted over her, who is like, she was promoted because they just like liked her more. It's not that she had like worked harder at all. Like our heroine was the one who pretty much ran the store and she was fired so this other girl could be promoted, and the other girl still calls her and asks her for help and she helps her. I'm just like, that kind of personality drives me so crazy because I just want to shake her and be like, stop it and grow backbone and tell these people no, but she can't. And so even when like her girlfriend broke up with her in the beginning, she literally like helped her move her stuff out, and it was like a surprise breakup. She like showed up and her girlfriend was like packed and ready to leave, and she's like, oh, let me get the door for you, even though she was heartbroken. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so I had a hard time liking her character, but then this romance is very, very, very slow. Like 80% in, we finally get them to have something happen in this romance. And what was interesting is that a lot of it was on this like barge where they were like going to the kingdom, and so much of it took place on the ship traveling, and I was so bored by this romance. So I really wanted to like it. They obviously were attracted to each other in the beginning, so I was really excited for this attraction, but nothing came of it. And then so much of the book happened in the last like 20% when we had the romance developing. We had figuring out if she was a royal or not, her arriving, and like dealing with all that stuff. But it was just too slow for me. I gave it 2 stars. I just didn't love this one, and I really wanted to, but I just didn't. So I'm not going to read any more in the series, and we'll see, depending on what Alyssa Cole writes next, if I want to read it or not, because I loved her earlier books, but things she's written recently I just haven't been loving. Then I read The Duke Who Knew Too Much by Grace Calloway, and this one I gave 3.5, but more like 3 stars. I listened to this audiobook, and a lot like didn't happen in this book. It feels like it was very long, and I wanted more from this book. So our heroine sees our hero with this woman in like the garden or something, and he's like holding her captive and like ravishing her, and so our heroine thinks he's like assaulting her, but like that's what the girl wants he's with. So she thinks that he's assaulting her, and then this woman shows up dead, and she's like, oh, I know who it is, it was the Duke. And I was like, I saw him with her in the garden and he was assaulting her, and so he's the one who killed her. And that's not what happened. And so like the Duke was trying to explain to her like what was really happening, and she has no idea. And so they kind of explore that in here, that kind of personal relationship that he has with women and like what she's realizing and understanding he has. And then they're trying to figure out who had actually killed this woman and was trying to frame him or try to kill him too. He doesn't know. So there are some secrets to this. I believe these are the parents of the heroine in this one, so that's why I wanted to read the story. But this one, I just was more bored by a lot of it. I can't even remember fully like all the details that happen in this book. I remember the gist of it, but I wanted more from it. I know a lot of people really love this on Goodreads, but I wanted more from it, especially after reading this one first. Like it really didn't live up to this. So this one I gave it 3.5 stars, rounded down to 3. I just wanted more for the romance, and it just felt like it fell flat after the beginning for me. Then I picked up Xoxo by Axio. I was sent this arc from the publisher because the author had asked them to send it to me, so I greatly appreciate that. This one, our heroine is a cello prodigy. She is so good at cello, and she meets a boy at her uncle's karaoke bar. She helps her uncle out sometimes because her dad did pass away, and so her uncle is really important to her in her life, and so she helps out there, and she sees this boy in there, and they end up challenging each other and then spending like to a karaoke battle kind of thing, and then spending time together, and she's really intrigued by him, but then he just disappears and doesn't ever text her back. They exchange numbers, and she's like, that's weird. And so she ends up getting into a performing arts school in Seoul, and that's because her mom is moving there for 6 months to take care of her grandma. And so our heroine is like, oh my gosh, my mom's leaving me. And then she's like, well, I could go to this performing arts school there. So she does, and it just so happens the boy she spent time with is part of this group, which is a huge K-pop group, and they're not allowed to date because one of the other guys had a girlfriend, and it ended horribly because the fans got mad, the label got mad, and so the guys aren't allowed to date anybody. And so she ends up having to have a secret romance with our hero because they really like each other, but it's against the rules. So they secretly date, and she becomes really good friends with one of the members of the band, and it's super cute. I really like this one. It makes me really, really, really want to go to South Korea and visit. I just loved the whole culture she explored in here. I love the whole K-pop thing going on. It was so much fun. I do want to say I was really frustrated with our heroine at the end, so I did give this more 4.5 stars because I wanted more of her focus on why she was there as a cello performer, and there was this like showcase at the end that she was really hoping to do well in, that she was doing with a friend, and she really put everything off just to be with him, and it got really frustrating. And I didn't really believe that she was this huge cello player because she wasn't even practicing for like 70% of the book. And she even said, like, I know I'm not giving as much focus as I should be into playing the cello, but if you're this cello prodigy and you're at this performing arts school that is like super competitive to get into, you should be practicing a lot more than you have. So I wanted a little bit more realistic aspect on that part, and she just became a little bit frustrating at the end for me, but I thought this was super cute. I really loved how she went to a boarding school there, and it was a music school. I love things that have to do with like singers and actors and performers, so this was so much fun, and I'm glad that I read it. Now we're getting into the indie romances I read while on vacation. So on the plane, on the way, I had a hour-and-a-half plane ride from Columbus to Atlanta, and then I had a 5-hour plane ride almost from Atlanta to St. Lucia. So I was traveling literally all day. We started at like 5 in the morning when we left, 4:30 in the morning we left our house with my parents' house, and then didn't land until like 5 p.m. Didn't get to the resort until 5 p.m. because then we had an hour-and-a-half bus ride to the resort. So it was a long travel day, and so I entirely finished Four Psychos by Christy Cunning, and someone told me I wouldn't like it. I loved it. I love this so much. I loved it so much because it's paranormal. So we have our heroine who's a ghost, and the guys, I did not know this, are like demon soul slayer kind of things. I don't even like know how to explain it. And so they all like came together and are these like really amazing guys who like slay souls. I don't know like how to explain what they do. And so they're part of a competition with like the devil to like do something. I don't even know why they're trying to win this competition, so they can like get into hell or something. She woke up in their home as a ghost, and she's been watching them for like 5 years. They haven't been able to see her. She's just like watches them, and they get up to some things together that she watches, and she's like, interesting. And so one day a guy tries to come in and kill them, and she is able to like manifest herself to save them, and the guys can now see her, and like she figures out like who she is, why she's there, and how to control her like ability to like be a person or not, and like who's killing these guys, all that stuff. It was so good. I will say I was so frustrated that nothing happened like yet, because there was so much like tension with them and her, and there was no payoff in this book, and I was just like, come on. So I'm dying to read the next one. I loved it. I love the paranormal aspect. I love how there was a reason why it was a reverse harem. It's because of this paranormal aspect, so it's like a lot more believable to me, believable enough in a paranormal romance, and I just loved it. I love ghost romances. I loved that she was a ghost so much, and it was great. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And I read The Predator by Runix, and this one I did not love. I'm having a hard time remembering what this is about, because I know she like was trying to defy her dad, and there were like scenes with her dad in here, and he is like an enemy of her dad, and he is like this predator, this big bad killer. It was pretty boring to me, this romance was. Not a whole lot happened, and it was a lot of them in their inner monologue like over and over and over again. Oh yeah, I said I loved the beginning 10% and the end 10%. Oh, that's right. Okay, so it's coming back to me. The beginning is that she created these like codes, and her ex-boyfriend like gave them to the hero of the book, the Predator, and so she's breaking into his house to try to get the codes back, because they're like codes that could like cause like nuclear war or something. And so I was like, awesome. Like I love it when our heroines are trying to infiltrate the mafia guys and like can hold their own, and that's literally like it, because he doesn't end up having them, and someone I think was like setting him up for something, and they're trying to figure out who and like what it was, and she's such a passive character after the first 10%. I was like, do something, like I want you to go out and like fight and like try to find these codes and do things, and it was pretty boring for a long time. Then she's like, oh, I gotta go to dinner with my dad and like do these things, and I was just like, give me something. We do learn a lot about him at the end and why he is the way he is, and I really loved that part, but that's all I loved about this book. So I loved the very beginning and the very end, but the beginning was just way too slow for me and I didn't love it. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I was kind of disappointed, but I am excited to read more from this author because people have said this is their least favorite of her, and so I'm gonna check out more from this author. Then I read One Villain's Rise by Gianna Darling. This is book 2 in the duet, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because I knew our hero and heroine had decided they want to be together at the end of the first book, and so they're together for this book, and I don't care about books where the couple is together, even if it's my favorite author, because I'm just like, okay, they love each other, okay, and like sure they have like rocky parts that happen, but this just like isn't my cup of tea for romances. I still really loved our hero and heroine. I really loved how they were trying to, I think it was Italy they went back to, and dealing with like his enemies there and trying to get out of certain situations, and dealing with what if they go back to the US because she's still a lawyer, and like what are they gonna do, like is she even gonna have a job, because like stuff happened in the first book. I can't spoil stuff that happened in the first book, and so I really did enjoy this book, but I couldn't give it 5 stars because personally I don't care when couples are together and happy, and they were. So that's just a me thing. I still love this duet. I really love Gianna Darling's writing and her characters and her world building and like her mafia romances. So know that I love this. It's just know that going in, our characters have decided they like each other and are dealing with things together instead of separately like in the first book. Because the first book was so good. I love the angst. I love everything about it. And this one didn't have that. Then I read Run, Posey, Run by Kate C. Wells. This one was so much fun. So interesting. So our hero is like, I forget what they called him, like a psychopath or something. He just doesn't feel emotion. And there are some things that were like, cause I read Lacey's review from Lacey Book Lovers, and her stomach growled and he was like, what was that? Like he didn't understand what it meant to be hungry, and I feel like that was weird because like you know what it means to be hungry. But he and her were dating, and then he is sent a video of like a sex tape of her with an old boyfriend, and it was dated the day before, so it was from before she dated him, and he's a mafia guy, and she's like been dating a bunch of mafia guys, and she dated a lot of bad mafia guys, like people who were abusive to her, and now she's dating him, and they have like a comfortable relationship. They're just there filling each other's needs, and she gets a lot of money, she gets to be taken care of, and he doesn't want her to work, so she's like, okay, I won't have a job even though she really wants to, and she is there for him, and he sees it, and he is like absolutely not devastated, just angry that someone would do that to him, someone would cheat on him, and so he kicks her out. He's like, you are leaving this instant. She tries to tell him that wasn't recent, that was when I was dating him, and he's doing that to get mad at you, like that's a doctored date, like, and so he gets angry, and so she kicks her out and she leaves, and she's so angry that he believed the tape, and she's like, I need to start over. I know he's gonna try to come after me, because he like literally was about to kill her. He was so angry, and so she like dumps her phone and everything, and like he finally like realizes that it wasn't real, and he's like, what did I just do? Get her back for me. And so it's so funny. It's like kind of a second chance romance, and he's like, she's mine. And so he finally tracks her down, and they really reevaluate their relationship because she finally starts talking to him like a real person, and like not this perfect figure of a partner for him, like a girlfriend. She actually tells him the truth, and it's really interesting, and he starts falling in love with her that way. So this was a lot of fun. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. I like some parts think were a little bit unrealistic with how he thought, but I thought it was a lot of fun, and like people are trying to kill him too because he's a big mafia man. So this was a fun mafia romance with a very, very interesting hero. Like he is not your normal hero. He's not like, oh, I love you and I want to like give you the world and cuddle with you. He's like, you're mine kind of hero, which was a lot of fun. So I had a lot of fun reading this one. And the last book I read was Neighborly by Katrina Jackson. This one is pretty short. It is I think it's Heaven and Calvin move in to this new home. They are dating. She is an artist and he is a boxer, and he is like trying to get his big break. And so he's always at the gym constantly. He just quit his like UPS job or something. And they get this house, and Steven and Tasha, I think, are the other couple, and the walls are pretty thin. And so they hear each other a lot, and Tasha is very attracted to Heaven. And Heaven is like, why am I finding myself attracted to our neighbor? And so Tasha and Steven have a understanding that Tasha is allowed to be with other women if she wants to. They just have to communicate about it. And so this is about their romance, and there was so much communication in here. I really love that. It's definitely a very, very spicy romance. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed how Heaven was exploring her options in like relationships and talking about it with Calvin instead of like hiding it and not talking about it. There's no cheating in here. Everything is consensual and everything is agreed upon by everybody, and that was really interesting because I haven't read a book like that before. So I thought this was just a really fun time and pretty short, but I enjoyed it, so I definitely recommend checking this out if you like that plot. And those are the books that I read in July so far for the first 15 days of July. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts are and what you've read so far this month. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.